Have you ever stopped to wonder how many of your choices are actually yours? Not the big dramatic ones, but the small, everyday ones. The music you like, the opinions you hold, the career you're chasing, the people you're attracted to. Right now, it probably feels obvious. I chose these things. But what if that feeling is the illusion? What if choice itself is just a convincing story your mind tells you? One that makes you feel free, even if you're not as independent as you think. We grow up believing freedom means having options. If you can choose between A and B, you're free. If no one forces you, you're in control. Psychologically, choice feels empowering. Studies show that people who believe they have more choice feel happier, more confident, and more motivated. Our brains are wired to associate choice with autonomy. But here's the uncomfortable question. Where did the desire to choose A instead of B come from in the first place? Think about it. You don't choose your personality. You don't choose what feels interesting, boring, exciting, or disgusting to you. Those preferences show up fully formed, and then you act on them. Philosophers like David Hume noticed this centuries ago, and modern neuroscience keeps reinforcing it. When scientists look at the brain, they don't find a free will center. They find biological processes, neural firing patterns, and chemical signals, all responding to causes that existed before you were consciously aware of them. In some experiments, researchers can predict which button a person will press several seconds before the person reports having made the decision. That doesn't mean you're a robot. It means the feeling of, I chose this, may come after the brain has already begun the process. Your consciousness might be narrating decisions, not originating them. This is why some thinkers argue that free will, at least in the traditional sense, is an illusion. Not because choices don't happen, but because you didn't author the forces that shaped the chooser. All of them quietly influence what feels like a free decision. You didn't pick your parents, you didn't pick your childhood, you didn't pick the society that taught you what success looks like. And yet all of those things shape what you want. So does that mean you're trapped? That everything is predetermined? That freedom is fake? Not necessarily. Here's where things get interesting. Even if your desires are influenced, you still act according to them. You still reason, reflect, hesitate, regret, and change. You still respond to consequences. This is where a more nuanced view of freedom emerges, one that psychologists and philosophers call compatibilism. It suggests that freedom doesn't mean being uncaused. It means acting in alignment with who you are, your values, goals, and understanding, even if those were shaped over time. In other words, you may not have chosen the cards you were dealt, but you still play the hand, and that playing matters. What's fascinating is that belief itself plays a role here. Studies show that when people stop believing in free will entirely, they can become less motivated, less ethical, and more impulsive. The experience of agency seems to be psychologically useful. It helps us take responsibility. It helps society function. The illusion, if it is an illusion, isn't pointless. It's functional. Think of it like this. When you see a visual illusion, your eyes still experience it as real. Knowing it's an illusion doesn't make it disappear. Similarly, understanding that your choices are influenced, it just makes you more aware of the forces pulling the strings. And that awareness might actually be where real freedom lives. Because when you recognize influence, you can design environments that nudge you toward better outcomes. You may not be free in the absolute cosmic sense, but you're not powerless either. So how free are you, really? Maybe not as free as you feel, but maybe freer than you think. Not because you escape causation, but because you can understand it. And sometimes, understanding is the closest thing to freedom we get. So the next time you say, I chose this, pause for a second. Ask yourself, why did this choice feel right? Because in that question lies something more powerful than the illusion of choice, the chance to see yourself clearly. And maybe that's the kind of freedom that actually matters.